The controversy with APD has divided Albuquerque.
And it's not only on the streets, there's also a war of words on social media. Albuquerque Citizens Supporting APD is a Facebook group that's been around for about 2 years. Overnight, it's grown to include 5 times as many members as it had before Sunday's protest against police. Then there are accounts like Op Albuquerque and Coalition to Stop Police Brutality that are posting very different views. Here, someone is criticizing the riot gear used by officers, saying, quote, "Does this look like police to you? It's the military," end quote. Others are calling officers murderers and animal abusers because APD exposed its own horses to tear gas. Now, on the flip side of all this picture is making the rounds. It reads, "Don't like cops. Next time you're in trouble, call a crackhead." You know, an Albuquerque firefighter could be in some trouble for one post made. AFD is investigating firefighter Kenneth Barncastle's post. The department says he was joking about APD killing people, saying he'd quit the fire department to join APD if they had a criminal population reduction unit. Fire Chief David Downey says AFD has a social media policy and appropriate action will be taken after an internal investigation is done. Albuquerque City Councilors are now speaking about Sunday's protest against the police department.
Some councilors we talk with say they don't condone what some of the protesters did, but they say they're not surprised by the protest or opposed to protest in general. The councilors are now working on adding another way for people to voice their concerns.
For several years now, we've been concerned and doing all that we can do and more. I mean, I'm not sure if we've done all we can do, but we want to.
And then there's Councilor Ray Garduno here. He got deep into the action Sunday night when he picked up a bullhorn and stood between officers and the protesters trying to calm the crowd.
Hey, look at that guy! He's getting ready! He's getting ready to kill again! Get on the sidewalk!
A lot of people are calling for more oversight of APD, something councilors say they have been working on. Well, the ACLU is also weighing in on how things were handled during Sunday's protest. While the organization isn't excusing everything protesters did, it does think police made things worse. The ACLU thinks the crowd would have gone away on its own. But when officers showed up in riot gear, the ACLU says they created a volatile situation.
And I think that this whole situation has polarized the city in that people are either completely against the police department or completely for. And I would take the middle road and say I'm for all the police officers that protect us every day. And I think that the tragedy of the James Boyd shooting is something that needs to be looked into, and we need to have more oversight. But that doesn't mean that every single police officer is a thug or a killer, as some of the later protesters were saying.
Well, many people here say the protesters embarrassed the city, however, and those same people are saying they are proud of the police department's professionalism and composure as protesters tried to provoke violence on Sunday night.
Family members of those who have been shot by Albuquerque police are saying that they are not happy with the behavior of some of the demonstrators. Mike Gomez's son, Alan, was killed by an APD officer during a domestic call 3 years ago. Gomez says he understands why people are frustrated, but he believes some demonstrators tried to use the protests for their own agenda.
There is some rogue people out there on their own expressing their feelings, that's for sure.
And Kenneth Ellis's son was also killed by APD. He praised the way officers responded to the protests.
Showed a lot of restraint and a lot of patience with these idiots out there on the street throwing rocks and painting and doing stuff that's illegal.
Ellis says the unruly protesters lost credibility. The family of James Boyd, the homeless man whose shooting death prompted Sunday's protest, has not been found, but the city may still face a lawsuit in his death. Yesterday, retired APD officer John Walk filed notice that he intends to sue for wrongful death in the Boyd case. Now, Walk calls APD a malicious department. He says when he was a cop, he would diffuse violent situations using his nightstick.
The deal is, I'm concerned that they go killing people without even using what we used to have as a city police officer, issued nightsticks.
An attorney we talked with says if Boyd's family isn't found, a judge could appoint a representative for him in a wrongful death lawsuit. Any damages would end up going to the state as unclaimed property.
Well, this morning, Mayor R.J. Berry says he still doesn't know the overall cost when it comes to the damage from the protest. The city did not waste any time cleaning up the graffiti and vandalism all along Central yesterday from Girard to downtown. Within a few hours, 4 workers had just about everything cleaned up. They were busy covering up anarchy symbols, curse words, and more. The Triangle Park Police Substation in Nob Hill was hit especially hard with both graffiti and eggs. Well, make sure you keep it with News 13 and KRQE.com for continuing coverage of APD and the fallout of the deadly shooting of James Boyd. You can always get the latest anytime here on air and online.
We've learned more workers have been exposed to radiation at WIP. Meanwhile, today a crew at WIP is expected to go underground for the first time since the Valentine's Day radiation leak. 8 experts will descend a half-mile into the nuclear waste pilot plant near Carlsbad to try and figure out what caused the leak. They'll start working at the bottom of a vertical shaft where air enters from the surface and should be clear. Officials confirmed yesterday that 4 more workers were exposed to low levels of radiation by the leak. That brings the total number of workers exposed to 21. Work could begin on a massive potash mine in southeastern New Mexico by the end of the year, bringing a lot of jobs to the area. The Intercontinental Potash Corporation is working to open the $1 billion mine, which would be west of Jal in Lee County. The company is working to get the licensing finalized now that the final environmental impact report is out. Operations should begin in 2017. Studies indicate that the mine could produce 714 tons of potash a year for at least 50 years.
If you're looking for a job, here's a lead. Kemta Transforming IT Services is hiring. The company is hosting a job fair from 9 to 1 today at New Mexico Workforce Connection on Mountain Road Northeast. Kemta is hiring 50 people, mostly temps for customer service technicians. Kemta says those could turn into full-time jobs.